I am not taking issue with the fact that your legislation is going to establish an Office of Minority and Women Inclusion. I am not taking issue with the requirements on racial and gender hiring. My concern here goes only to the question of lending. And the thrust of the rest of the language in here makes it very clear that you're going to have these entities regulated by this agency. They're going to be the banks, the community banks, the credit unions, and they're going to be under these practices where those entities are going to come under the legislation, in the sense that the regulator is now going to lean in on these kinds of goals. When does a goal become a mandate? Well, you know, the goals for the GSEs were 50% subprime and Alt-A lending, right? And what was the consequence of that? Well, their portfolios, oddly enough, were 50% subprime, and that was done for the purpose of affordable housing. Those portfolios ended up being 50% subprime and Alt-A. When does a goal become a mandate? I don't know. As we leaned in on these institutions to get rid of the 20% down under this assumption that, you know, we were better off if every American, regardless of creditworthiness, regardless of whether they had a down payment or could afford it or not, were going to own a home, we watched as that was ratcheted down to 5% to 3% to 0. So from my standpoint, since I have carefully only taken those 12 words to take out of your overall legislation, that one particular subject that I'm most concerned about, and that is the fact that these regulators end up being trumped on safety and soundness. Just as in the case of the GSEs, we had the question of regulation for safety and soundness trumped in a way by the goals, by the HUD enforced goals there. I'm just trying to ensure that that doesn't happen. And it seems to me that if you agree with me in terms of this not being an attempt to dictate lending on this basis, then you would support this amendment or work with me in order to specifically address that very provision. I think these 12 words do it.